And let me put the somewhere. We've got an agenda here. Here we go. And the first item is to review the previous minutes, and Jane sent those out. And so I had a copy of those here somewhere.
Look good to me. Thank you, Jane.
Oh, I know where they're at. They're right here.
Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
Yes. And so it didn't look like there was anything I could see that needed to be changed. So I'll entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
And second.
I'll second.
All right. Minutes approved as sent. The hopefully we won't have any issues with the office Wi-Fi today. The next item on the agenda is a website review, and I did take a look at all your suggestions, Jane, and I made, I believe, all the changes that you suggested.
It looked like it to me. I just saw them this morning.
Yeah, and they were good suggestions, and I think that menu looks better than it had in the past, and so we'll continue to keep taking a look at things like that. The resident directory update, pretty well done. Going through it, the one thing I haven't done yet is hi, Roger.
Good morning, good morning. I'll come close.
All right, I've got another camera here,
Oh, okay, we're experimenting. All right,
and we'll try that.
morning, folks.
Morning.
Hi, Roger.
Yes, there's Roger. I haven't presented our revisions to the office yet. And I have to make a list yet of items that need to be addressed in our directory. One of the things that I did, and I guess I wasn't as organized as I should be, is about halfway through, I sort of changed some of the, I was putting colors on their spreadsheet as to where they needed to be, what issues needed to be addressed. And like I said, halfway through, I changed that color. So I got to go back and revise so that they're all consistent. For the most part, our directory looks like it's in pretty good shape. I think I mentioned that at the last meeting. We have to, I made a few changes. And one of the things I want a list of is the number of owners that have, are not showing their profile. And whether or not we can we would like to contact them and see if we could get them to change that preference. I did send an email to one person just a couple of days ago, and she responded right away. Nope, I don't want my profile shown. And so we have to respect their wishes. And so there's nothing wrong with that. I think the one thing I probably should do, especially if I can talk to them or instead of emailing them, and that is to try to assure them that this is a closed website. that when they're looking, that when they're showing your profile in the directory, it is not available to the public. And it's only available to residents here. And some people may still say, well, I don't want the residents here to see my profile, which is fine. But I think we need to maybe explain that to people that, it might be, one argument would be is if there's something that needs to be addressed at your unit and you're not here,
Mhm.
your neighbors might want to try to contact you. And if you're not showing up in the directory, they can't. They could call the office and the office could contact you, but I think it's an argument that perhaps we could try to make. There's also, and I haven't addressed this yet, I've only counted about 3 or 4. When they show up in our directory, there is very little information about them. Their email address, their phone numbers are not showing up in the directory. Their name is, and their unit number is, but that's it. And when I go into my administrative account and I look at that very same person, unit number, there's information there. And so I don't understand what's going on. And so I need to address that with the company because there's something I must be missing or something that is not working right. And
So it's not something that they can block themselves?
no,
No,
Right.
okay.
no. And I did find one where there was an invoice, and we don't have invoices, you know, on the website for you, but there was an invoice that was past due. And so their account was suspended. And that I could fix.
Mhm.
I could go in and change that. But in general, these other ones that I've found where there's information that's not showing up, I don't know what's going on, so I'm going to ask the company if they can figure that out for me. And
I'm
then
not sure I understand. Chris, I'm not sure I understand the one example about the invoice. An invoice for what?
there's a place on the administrative side of the website where it says if you can send out invoices. And we never use that. And in fact, it even says that invoices aren't necessary. And so it's just something that I don't know how this one would have gotten put in there.
Okay.
And-
All right.
I'm guessing somehow it got put in at the office, but I'm not sure how.
Right. Okay.
So the one other thing that we need to take a look at, and that is if we could get oh, that's good. If we could get a list of renters. And I'll have to ask the office for that to see if there's a current list. It may not be up to date. I find that when I'm looking at the directory with the process that we were going through, sometimes I would see 2 or 3 or even 4 different people on a specific address. And in general, there's usually a renter involved there, sometimes more than one renter. And I can go look at that renter and I can see when they last logged on to the website. And so if they haven't logged on to the website in a couple of years, I delete them. I figure they're not renters anymore. And so That's, but I'd like to have some sort of list if we could get it from the office here to see who are renters and who are current renters. That would be the most important thing. And we can then make sure that those people, if they're not on the website in the directory, we could certainly ask them if they want to be. So that's where we're at.
That's good. It's a good recap. I've got one sort of overall comment, and that is, one question and one comment. I guess the question first, when you go to the front office and you ask questions about our contact list, the administrative list, you'd like to see a list of the renters, whatever your request is, do you always engage John with those requests and questions directly, or do you engage either Mary or Rox?
Usually everybody, usually.
Oh, I see.
It takes everybody to kind of be involved in that.
All right. Just the other sort of, my observation is that at least that the resident directory and the administrative list are, in this exercise, and really by definition, it's like oil and water. And that's by design. And that is to say that every owner here and in every other condo community in Florida has a statutory, as well as usually a community bylaw requirement to supply contact information to the office, to the association at the time they take possession of their unit. And that is so that that is so that they can receive association business on a regular basis. The resident directory is not a vehicle through which or by which association business is in quotes transacted. It's more of a community and culture building, kind of a tool. That's my understanding. So anything that is not up to date on the administrative list is certain, we can continue to help them as much as we can, but it's part of our front office's requirement to have that information be accurate. And I bring this up because at the last, I guess, board meeting, John made a comment about a mailing they had sent out, and they had gotten, I think I'm right, and remember this, Chris, he had gotten a whole bunch of returns.
Right.
And he was, confused and confounded by that. And there's not much mystery to why that happened. It's because the administrative list is not where it needs to be, probably. So,
well, I think one of the things that happens is that the owners don't necessarily update.
Right.
If they've sold their place in Connecticut, they don't tell us. And so I think one of the things that it was pointed out is that the office has the mailing list. That the list that we've been looking at is their mailing list, and that needs work. There's no doubt about it. The directory, and I think we pointed this out at the last meeting, the directory is the email list. So that when we do a blanket email, it's coming out of the directory. It does not rely on the office list. And so the office list of emails and the directory's list of emails are not the same. I've tried to actually add some of our emails to the office list. And I've highlighted them where I've done that so that they have more current email address. But basically the address that gets mailed, the mailings, is kept in the office, and we have on our directory, we have a place for an alternate address. but we don't fill that out. We allow the owner to fill that out. And so it's up to the owner whether they want to include that in their directory information. It's not something we choose to fill out. That's up to the owner. And so
Well,
our list of correct mailing addresses, we just don't have. That's not part of what we have in the directory.
right. And you know, where the oil and the water begin to mix here is when we have a situation, and I'm sure it's more than just a couple, where an owner opts in to receive information by email, but declines to participate in the directory.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
that's
If we have their email in the directory and they don't show their profile, they still will receive the email, the blanket email.
right.
So they can receive it without having their profile shown. But the one thing that I think is I also sort of did some updating in our directory, and that is where there were multiple listings from the same owners. Husband and wife often have two accounts. That's fine. I don't have any problems with that at all. But sometimes there's two accounts and they look almost the same. But one of them might have a slightly different email. And so what I've done is that because we now have the ability to add that second email to one account, we don't need both accounts. And so if the information in the two accounts is basically the same, except for the email address, I've added that email address to their second email and then gotten rid of that account. So there's only one account rather than two. And so it just makes it a little cleaner.
So doing that, when you do your blanket email, will it go to both emails?
Yes.
Okay,
I
because
could-
I know that's why Judy and I each had a separate account in the
Exactly.
beginning, was so that we could each get the emails.
Right. And one of the things that I can choose when I send out a blanket email is whether to send it to the second email.
Okay,
And I'm always going to choose yes.
okay.
And so some people are going to say, well, I got two emails. Well, that's okay. I don't have a big problem with that. And sometimes,
I guess in the end, Chris, at some point, maybe there's a recommendation from the IT committee that comes out of this process, which is that the front office figure out a way to execute a list check, a list management check, like once a year for all owners, and they could slice that up however they want. They could slice it up into quarters and just take 1/4 of our 558 units and execute the update, you know, split it up over the year so it's not so arduous. But back to your point, the list is not in good shape, and it's because they're not doing the updating work.
and I think that that with this last mailing that went out and that had to do with the new maintenance fees,
Mhm.
it was a way for them to see addresses that weren't working. And so that's good. I mean, that's what they want to do. They want to make sure that they get the right addresses there. And then one of the other things that you know, you have to be a little bit cautious with is when one of the owners passes away and whether or not they should still be on the list. And I think that's not our decision to make unless we see that the surviving owners request it. But I did highlight that on some of the ones that I was aware of where there was somebody that was no longer, you know, had passed away. And so at least the office in the list I'm going to give them back will have those names identified. And so, but it's going to be kind of up to to somebody in the office to confirm that or to decide whether or not, is it still in an estate? Is it, you know, where's where's the process at? And whose name should be, you know, on a mailing or something like that. So, I don't think it's our job to determine that, but I think it's our job to identify ones that might be potential changes.
I wonder if there's some legality there that if the person's name is still on the deed, then we need to maintain the name here on the unit.
Yeah.
You know, so for example, my next door neighbor's husband passed away 3 or 4 years ago. If she hasn't updated her deed and his name is still on it,
Right.
I could see why the office would want to keep that name on for legality purposes, because there may need to be something done, if the place is sold. And that would be up to the owner, the leftover owner, to take care of, but I could see that causing a legal issue, I guess.
I agree. And that's why I would say that we would let the office determine
Yeah,
whether or not
I can
that should
see.
change.
It may
I could see
cause
why
it.
before, but now I think about it,
Yeah.
you know, I think about that possibility.
It may, if we do nothing, i.e. just leave the name on, the deceased name on, yes, it may create a legal issue, but not for the association. It's
For
a
the owner
legal
when they
issue
want to
for,
sell it.
it's a legal issue for the owner. The surviving owner
Right.
has the responsibility. I mean, we just gotta at least say it once here. Bereavement notwithstanding, that the owner has the responsibility. You know, this has to be on their to-do list going forward. So anyway, it's something, it's another item. It's another terrific example of things that we need to be communicating, I believe, to our owners, not on a super regular basis, but every now and then. You know, there are requirements and responsibilities that owners have as part of owning a unit here or any other condo association, and the front office cannot be expected to be staying on top of all of these different elements. The owner has to partner with us, and they have a legal responsibility to do so.
And to me, the document that we need to emphasize is the census form. And that's the form that if somebody's, you know, deceased, they should no longer be listed on that census form.
That's very good, Chris. Exactly right.
And so that's a form that I think has been underutilized, and we need to, you know, emphasize that much more strongly as a way for the information that we have on owners to be updated. So that's where we're at, and I think it's been a bit of a slog. I spent a couple of days doing a couple of the villages and then forgot to save my spreadsheet, and I had to reboot the computer for some reason and lost some information for a couple of days worth of work, but I got it back. The next item is somewhere. The Zoom meeting issues. Anthony and I have had several tests that we've run, and particularly the audio portion of the Zoom meetings here in the office, we've had some issues with, and some of the people on our Zoom meetings have said they just, you know, the sound is breaking up. It's not been consistent, and so one of the things that we Anthony suggested it. I agreed. And I'm sorry, Andrew suggested
Andrew.
it, and was a different microphone, and so that's actually the next item is to purchase an omnidirectional microphone that, and it may be a better, a more suitable microphone for this particular office. We were finding that one of the problems that we were having with the polysync mics was that it's connected through Bluetooth, and we were finding that perhaps the Bluetooth was a bit of an issue. And so I guess we could actually jump into the next item and see if we could get approval from the committee to purchase an omnidirectional microphone.
Is that what this is?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
We've already, I purchased it on Amazon Prime Day.
Okay.
Hoping that the committee would agree.
Do we only need one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And we tested, there was one here in the office that we tested it, and it was working fine, except as you got a little bit farther towards the edge of the room. And then the sound just, it wasn't quite acceptable. So this one is supposed to go to about 16 feet.
Okay.
So how's it sound today?
fabulous.
So is this just for the microphone going in, or is it supposed to be the speaker coming out as well?
It's just the microphone.
Just the microphone.
It's just the
Okay.
microphone.
We already have a set of separate bookcase speakers that I would suggest as part of the office meeting setup. So we would have the omnidirectional mic, and then the two. I think, Chris, you have those in inventory back at your unit. The two bookcase size speakers that get their power from the PC through a USB, I think, or do they plug in? I'm not sure. But anyway, the audio is simply an earphone jack that plugs into the earphone jack of the laptop, and that's how the sound comes back out into the meeting room, and that is much better sound than having it come out the microphone of the laptop. And that would be the final solution for meetings held in our office. We all know about what the setup is over at the church, a little bit more, a few more steps, but nonetheless, from the feedback we got last season, pretty effective, and in both the enclosure of the church meeting room as well as for virtual. But I was saying to Chris, Roger, if you could imagine that omnidirectional mic hanging, maybe 2 feet below the ceiling of that meeting room, right in the middle. And then, you can buy those clasp hooks, metal clasp hooks that hook onto the framing of the ceiling boards, and sort of running the wire. We'd need one more, Chris, we would need one more USB extension cord to sort of do this if we ever wanted to, but we can hang that microphone from the ceiling permanently, and then run the extension cord across and then down the side of the wall, and just have it curled up and ready to use each time. And that would be the optimum position for that mic in that meeting room. So that's something we can also think about. But I think it is the right solution because of all the different signals that are traveling around in that small meeting room, and the confirmation that I got earlier. And I didn't know this. Bluetooth is so prevalent as a carrier for only one reason, and that's because it's open source technology. But it's a known fact that it does a lousy job of audio signal compression and decompression, packing and then unpacking the audio signal. It's just not a good solution for that when competing with other signals. Remembering for a moment too that we normally Chromecast in that room as well, And there's another Bluetooth signal that you have to compete with. Now, Chris and I have also experimented with successfully a direct connection from the laptop to the television using an HDMI cord. Works great. I always, when in doubt, I always look for an Ethernet connection. I always look for an HDMI. I always look for connection. I always look for a corded connection to manage Zoom meetings, to manage every component of a Zoom meeting. So I think we've made a lot of progress, and I appreciate everyone's patience with this process because we have to get it right. The members expect it, and there are some who will continue to squawk if we don't get this right.
Yep, I agree. The cost of this microphone is $26.39. I
Yeah.
entertain a motion to purchase it.
Before you entertain the motion, I just heard Andrew say hanging it permanently here in this room. Wouldn't that necessitate needing a second one to have to use for the church meetings? So we wouldn't have to take this one down?
We
You don't use this
we don't
type of
need
mic,
this
right?
at
We
the
don't
church.
need this at the church?
No,
No,
Okay.
because you're talking directly into
Using
the microphones.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, just wanted to make sure.
Thanks, Roger.
Is there a motion to approve this purchase?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second,
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. The second item, which Andrew and I have discussed, is a laptop that would be sort of dedicated to Zoom meetings and would be basically a laptop that that would be used by the IT committee. It's a I think it's a reasonable idea. We have I think it would be easier for me rather than hauling my laptop in and out of the meetings. Would be to have a laptop here that could be used for meetings. And so I think we have room in our budget this year, depending on how much we want to spend on a laptop. I've been doing a little bit of research. The laptops that I've been looking at, you can see, I believe you can see this, right?
Mhm.
I was looking for one that is about a 17-inch screen, and one that has 64 gigs of RAM. Those are two of the criteria that I would recommend for a laptop. I think that that's because of the amount of inputs that we have, particularly at the church, having 64 gigs of RAM is kind of a helpful thing so that we don't overload the processor. And so that's the most RAM that most laptops will come with, but it does add to the price. And 17 inches, I mean, I prefer that because my eyesight's probably diminished a little bit, but
I understand that.
but it's there's a lot of 17 inches laptops out there. One of the things that is probably not critical is the storage. We wouldn't plan on having a lot of storage, and you can see that laptops these days are coming with a terabyte or 2 terabytes, which is a huge amount of storage. I can't ever imagine us needing 2 terabytes, but you just get a lot of laptops that are coming with that. I also don't think that the the type of processor is all that important. Almost all these processors are fast. Sometimes there's multiple processors. Um, I haven't done a lot of research on what works best, but I think that in general, almost any processor, whether it be Intel or AMD's, I mean, they're all fast. They're all good. So I don't think that's a critical thing. I do think that we have to decide, or I have to get some input from you folks. Most of the laptops that I've been looking at are touchscreen. And I'm not a big fan of touchscreen. I still use a mouse, and I like using a mouse. But what's your feeling about that? What, have any of you used a touchscreen?
The one I have
No,
is both. You can
Okay,
use the mouse or you can touch the screen.
okay,
I very rarely touch the screen because I prefer using the mouse as well.
right,
And occasionally, if I won't go to move it, I touch the screen where I'm not, where I shouldn't be,
Yeah,
and things
yeah,
change.
yeah.
But I think you're right, they're all coming that way. And as long as you have the option of using the mouse as well as the touch, I think you're okay. But I don't think we should try to go with one that doesn't have a mouse at all.
right, I agree. What do you think, Jane?
oh, I hate touch screens. They've always got peanut butter on them. I'm perfectly happy with a mouse.
Andrew?
Same.
Yeah, I would agree that if they come this way, that's fine, but we would probably prefer to have, and I like, in general, a wireless mouse seems to be working pretty well.
Yeah,
And I think we sort of extrapolate the bigger picture here. And the bigger picture is, at some point, every person on the IT committee knows how to produce a Zoom meeting, either in the office or at the church. And part and parcel of that next step for the committee as a service to the association is to be confident of what Chris started the conversation with, which was, I don't want to necessarily, have to drag my laptop around or whatever. That's right. We need a community laptop that is more easily and confidently passed around. Like, we'll give it a special place somewhere in the office. Who knows? We might even have our own IT committee, little footlocker that has a lock on it. But if you put your hand up to run a meeting, then you'll know the protocol that starts out with going into the cupboard and getting the equipment and then proceeding with the setup. And it won't matter down the road who's doing it, and that will relieve Chris and myself as the only two who have been doing this, and it will relieve me because part of the issues we've had is that my poor little ThinkPad is 12 years old, and I think some of the issues that I've had when I'm trying to run meetings from my laptop in the office get accentuated compared to when Chris does it on his laptop. So that was another driver for the conclusion that, hey, a laptop for the whole committee / association is really the next logical step.
I think it's the only thing that makes sense if we're gonna have consistency in producing these meetings.
I agree. And again, if you remember, we actually hosted more than 50 meetings last year. And we continue to do that. And I hosted 4 meetings recently. I'm getting to the point where I would prefer to have some help on that. And
Oh, yeah.
Andrew has helped on some, and but I think all the committee, it wouldn't hurt us to all have the ability to host a meeting. And in general, it works better. I mean, I've hosted meetings at my condo, and that's certainly possible to do, but you lose the ability to show that other people, if it's in the office here, you lose the ability to show other people the people that are on Zoom on the TV.
Right.
Which is a very handy thing.
Mhm, it is.
And so I think in general, it would help be preferable, preferable to have the host of a Zoom meeting in the office, doing the meeting from the office, and that way it just seems to work better as far as the sound goes, as far as not having to rely on John to set up sound and things like that. So it just, I think, is going to be a matter of doing a little training session and having the committee members just play around hosting a Zoom meeting.
I also think if we get a dedicated laptop and we keep the laptop and all the peripheral equipment with it, and we document with instructions, step 1 is you do this, and step 2 and so on, they can stay with that equipment so that when any of us show up, I mean, I can do it, but I need some direction. And if I have to follow a 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
then I'll be fine.
If you only do
Yeah.
it every couple months,
Right, you need a reference.
Yeah.
And it can't be too detailed. It's gotta be as simple,
Right.
you know, line by line, step 1, step 2, and so on. But
Right.
yeah, I could do that if I had those, because I don't do it often enough to know what I'm doing.
Right.
So I think that's a great idea. And I would make the motion that we purchase
Well,
appropriate laptop.
I'd like to kind of wait another month and do a little more research on some of these laptops, if you don't mind. And the other thing
I
that we
withdraw.
should discuss is whether or not we need software. What kind of software do we need on a laptop? Because if it's going to be something like Microsoft Office, we're going to have an expense, a monthly expense on that. If we need Acrobat, there's a monthly expense on that. Although Lynn actually did drop off at my unit an old copy of Acrobat. And it was one she's had for a while. And I used to use it, and it should work fine. The newer Acrobat's a little, has some features that the old one doesn't. But the new one you pay monthly. And the one that she dropped off is a CD, and it's a one-time. I mean, it's already been purchased. The only drawback as far as a new laptop goes, none of them have a CD drive in them anymore.
That's exactly right. Mine doesn't have one, and it's 10 years, or 8 to 10 years old, and it
No,
doesn't have one.
This one doesn't have.
No.
No.
No,
So-
so you're forced to, I thought you could still buy the software one time, but now you're saying, no, you have to rent it?
Well, yes. At this point, Acrobat charges you monthly. Go ahead, Jane.
I think we have to look at getting these software packages, the Microsoft Office and Acrobat at the very least. I mean, we can't rely on the fact that everybody's going to have Excel the next time we want to go through the Office residence list.
Right.
I mean, I have it, yes, but does everybody? Probably. But is that, asking me to maintain my Microsoft Office subscription? Yes.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And I haven't looked at the recent pricing. But it could be an ongoing expense for the IT committee, which I don't think would be a terrible burden.
Well, let's
You know-
take Jane's thought one step further and suggest, at least from my perch, that whatever the software package we get for the laptop needs to be, I believe, an identical overlay to what the office is running.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, if we want to be helpful and integrative and collaborative with our front office, then we need to have identical software packages. So therein lies, that's when the conversation, and I knew it was going to sneak its way somehow, somewhere. We'd end up back at the front office with this conversation, and we'll have to leave that with Chris over the next month or so to begin to poke away at that, because that may be part of the 2025 written recommendation, but there'll have to be some more research done to Chris's point. When does Barbara want our budget, Chris?
We are due to present, all the committees need to have a budget presentation to the budget committee. The first week of September. I believe
Okay.
the meeting is going to be the second Monday or something around then in September. And so we will have one more meeting at the end of August before we have to submit our budget.
All right, so we'll have to, whatever it is, we'll have to motion second and pass that. So we got like 4 weeks, right?
Right.
Okay.
I don't have to.
And I think that one of the things that I never thought about, and that is, it's very possible that the subscription that the office has
Correct.
might
Yep.
be able to
Yep,
add
yep.
another device.
That's right.
So we can certainly
That's right.
explore that. And other
So
than
there'd be,
those, other than
sorry,
those
one
two-
more thing. So there'd be, I think there's John has a workstation. The front office has a workstation. Jeff has a workstation, I think. Isn't there a workstation in Jeff's office?
Yeah, but I'm not sure it has the subscription.
All right, right. But I mean, going forward, and then the laptop. So, an optimum number of, when you try and get to the question, how many workstations or how many, and then see what the offerings are from both Microsoft and Acrobat as it relates to multi-user levels. Maybe the first level is up to and including 5. And if that's the case, great. I mean, so we'll have to figure it out.
Right. Well, we can do that research. And one of the things that I would say, I haven't used Windows 11 Pro. I've only used Windows 11 Home. And as far as I can see, that's fine. That is a reliable platform, I guess, unless some company tries to update it and take out all the airlines. It seems to be okay.
Chris, to your
I
point.
don't shut mine off. I just read an article about whether you should turn yours off or not. And I think because I don't turn mine off, I wasn't affected by that update.
Oh.
Because usually
To your
when you
point,
turn
though-
it off and then turn it back on, if there's an update, it'll install.
Right. To your point, the front office may be able to get by just fine with the home version, even though, you know, we are a, in quotes, corporation, but with so few users, you know, it may be fine. And also what we're talking about here, this is where it gets tricky for our budget recommendation. You know, if we're a part of a user base that originates at the front office, that becomes an administrative front office IT budget line item. It is not an IT committee budget line item, really.
Right.
So we have to make those determinations down the line here.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so, I'll continue to do a little bit of research and try to get you some information on what we might find. Because we have in our current budget, in the 2024 budget, we should have, almost, $1,400 that we haven't used yet. So, the website bill will be coming in about 2 weeks. And I haven't seen any indication that that is going higher. And so the bill on that should be around $960 to $965. We actually had in our, I had it here somewhere, I had the last year's budget. And we had where I put it. But we had a figure, a potential, here it is. We put in, for our budget this next year, we actually added $100 to the website fee. But I don't think we're gonna get that, at least I haven't received any communication from them that we are getting an increase. So we have, like I say, we still have, we bought a few small items so far this year, but less than $100. So we still have a considerable amount that we can spend this year for a laptop. And so I think we can make that decision based on this year's budget and not worry about it too much for next year in the budget. But I'll send this out so we can take a look at this for our next meeting as to what we might want to propose for a budget for 2025.
So Chris, maybe I can clarify just for myself. This is because I'm newer. As I look at that budget and I hear your comments, and I catch myself suggesting that there's separation between the IT committee budget and any IT related expense that the front office may incur. Is there not really a line item in the current operating budget for that is separate and apart from the IT committee? That is to say, is everything that the association spends on IT, is that coming from the IT committee? Do you see what I'm saying? Is there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the office, when they spend money on computers or software, it's coming out of a line item on the office, in the office budget.
That's what I thought. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you.
So we'll do a little research on that and we'll make some suggestions as to what might, I mean, it looks to me like these things run, gosh, if you want, you can spend a couple $1,000s on a laptop.
Mhm.
I see no real good reason to do that. And you can see that most of the ones that are higher end are gaming laptops. And unless you guys are gamers, I'm not. I don't see any real good reason to get a gaming laptop. You can spend a couple $1,000 on those. most of what I was looking at was in this $800 to $900, even up to $1,000 range.
Nice. Very nice.
I think we can find, again,
Yeah.
the RAM is to me the most important thing, and the screen size is probably number 2.
Very nice.
Okay, let's take a look at next item here on the agenda. And that is, well, the budget, we just talked about that. The next meeting. There are 5 Fridays in August. I am going to be out of town on the 4th Friday, the 23rd. And so I'm suggesting that we have our next meeting on the 30th.
I like it.
I'm fine.
Okay with you, Jane?
I'm fine. This
All right.
seems to have worked well for me up here.
Yes, yes,
Crystal clear, Jane, crystal
Yeah.
clear.
yeah.
Great.
Are there any other items that we should bring before the group here? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, thank you all very much for your time this morning, and
Thank you, Chris.
have a good weekend.
Thank you,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
What
Bye-bye.
do we do for fun up there, Jane?
Mostly chores. It's just
Catch
another. habit for-
groundhogs.
Pardon me?
Catch groundhogs.
Mice. I saw
Yeah,
a
mice,
snake
exactly.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. My daughter-in-law caught a picture of a fox in the front last weekend. So, animal
Are
hunt.
you getting any of the smoke from out west?
No, not yet anyway.
Because I heard it's sort of coming towards the East Coast here.
Yes, I have heard. But I haven't seen any evidence yet, nor have I heard anybody talking about it yet.
Well, that's
So.
good. That's good.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
All right, take care.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.